The bombshell didn't come from a red carpet or a carefully filtered interview. It landed quietly, almost casually, and that was exactly why it hit so hard. In a moment no one was watching closely enough, Chrissie Heughan said something that instantly changed the narrative around her famous brother. Within minutes, the fandom realized this wasn't rumor, speculation, or wishful thinking. This sounded like truth. For years, Sam Heughan had maintained the same public stance. Private life off limits. Marriage questions deflected with charm or silence. Fans learned to read between the lines, but never had anything solid to hold onto. That carefully balanced image made what Chrissie said feel seismic, because it didn't come wrapped in PR language or media polish. The comment itself wasn't dramatic. No announcement, no headline-ready quote, no demand for attention. That was the danger of it. It slipped out naturally, framed like something already known, something obvious within the family. And that's when alarms went off, because people don't accidentally reveal secrets that don't exist. Within hours, fan forums and social platforms were on fire. Screenshots circulated, clips were dissected, and timelines were rebuilt from scratch. Longtime followers started connecting dots they had ignored for years. Suddenly, Sam's evasiveness around marriage didn't feel mysterious anymore. It felt intentional. What shook fans most wasn't just the possibility that Sam was married or committed. It was the realization that this truth may have existed quietly for a long time. While interviews kept circling the same unanswered questions, real life had apparently moved on behind closed doors. That gap between perception and reality felt jarring. Chrissie's role in all of this added weight to every theory. As a sister, she occupied a space far removed from the performance of celebrity. She wasn't selling a story or managing an image. If anything, she sounded unguarded, almost unaware of the impact her words would have. That authenticity made it harder to dismiss what she said as a slip or misunderstanding. As the shock spread, another question emerged just as loudly. Why now? Why would this truth surface at this moment, after years of disciplined silence? Some speculated fatigue. Keeping a secret that big can wear thin, especially when it clashes with everyday family reality. Others believed it was never meant to be hidden forever, only protected until the timing felt right. The media response was cautious but relentless. Headlines avoided absolutes, using words like suggests and implies, but the shift was undeniable. Sam Heughan was no longer being discussed as the eternal mystery. He was being reframed as someone who had actively chosen privacy over transparency, even when curiosity reached a fever pitch. Fans found themselves divided. Some felt deceived, questioning whether they had been misled on purpose. Others felt strangely protective, arguing that no one is owed access to someone else's personal commitments. The debate revealed more about audience entitlement than about Sam himself, exposing how deeply people invest in narratives that were never promised to be true. By the end of the day, one thing was clear. Chrissie hadn't just dropped a casual remark. She had cracked open a door that Sam had spent years keeping firmly shut. Whether intentionally or not, she forced a conversation that could no longer be ignored. And as the dust settled, the biggest question wasn't whether the marriage bombshell was real. It was how long this truth had been living quietly in plain sight, waiting for the one voice that didn't belong to the spotlight to finally say it out loud. After the initial shock faded, a deeper question began to take shape. If Chrissie Heughan had spoken so freely, then this truth had likely been normal within the family for a long time. What felt explosive to the outside world may have been routine behind closed doors. That contrast alone forced fans to reconsider everything they thought they understood. For Sam Heughan, the silence that followed spoke louder than denial ever could. There was no immediate clarification, no hurried interview to reset the narrative. Instead, the absence of response suggested calculation rather than panic. It felt like a choice rooted in habit, not fear. Those close to the situation hinted that Sam's approach to privacy had always been deliberate. Fame arrived quickly, and with it came a lesson learned early: exposure has a cost. By drawing a hard line around his personal life, he maintained a sense of control rarely seen at that level. Marriage, if true, would have been protected with the same discipline. As fans revisited years of interviews, patterns emerged that now felt impossible to ignore. Questions about settling down were always redirected with humor or vague optimism. He never denied the idea of marriage outright, but he never opened the door either. What once felt playful now read as guarded. The idea that a commitment existed quietly reframed many moments once labeled as mysterious. Sudden schedule gaps, long stretches without public appearances outside work, a noticeable separation between professional presence and private time. These details, dismissed individually, now formed a cohesive picture. Family dynamics added another layer of complexity. Chrissie's comment didn't sound like a reveal meant to shock, but like a reference to something already established. That tone mattered. It implied comfort, familiarity, and a lack of awareness that the world was still in the dark. Speculation soon shifted from whether there was a marriage to what kind of marriage it might be. Some suggested a legal union kept entirely private. Others believed it could be a long-term partnership viewed as marriage within the family, regardless of paperwork. Either interpretation challenged the rigid definitions fans had projected onto his life. The pressure on Sam intensified, not from media demands, but from expectation. Once a secret begins to surface, maintaining silence becomes harder. Every public appearance was scrutinized. Every word weighed for hidden meaning. And yet, he remained consistent, offering nothing new, nothing corrective. That restraint frustrated some fans while impressing others. To supporters, it reinforced the idea that personal truth doesn't require public validation. To critics, it felt like avoidance. The divide only deepened the conversation, ensuring the story stayed alive without any new information at all. What stood out most was how the narrative shifted from romance to autonomy. This was no longer just about marriage. It was about who controls the story when fame tries to claim ownership over private milestones. Sam's silence became part of the statement, whether he intended it or not. As days passed, the initial frenzy softened into something more reflective. People began asking why they needed confirmation in the first place. Why a private commitment felt like a public event. The bombshell, once explosive, now exposed deeper questions about boundaries and entitlement. If the truth had been revealed earlier, it might have sparked celebration. Revealed now, through a family voice, it carried a different weight. It felt human, imperfect, and unpolished. That imperfection made it believable in a way polished announcements rarely are. Ultimately, the story refused to resolve cleanly. No confirmation arrived, no denial followed, just a lingering understanding that something real had slipped into the open without permission. And sometimes, that is the most honest way a truth can appear. Whether Sam chooses to address it or not, the shift has already occurred. He is no longer viewed solely as a guarded public figure, but as someone who successfully lived a parallel reality out of reach. That alone reshapes his image more than any statement ever could. The marriage bombshell didn't end with answers. It ended with perspective, a reminder that the loudest revelations don't always come from the person at the center, but from the ones standing just close enough to forget the world is listening. No denial followed. Just a lingering understanding that something real had slipped into the open without permission. And sometimes, that is the most honest way a truth can appear.